Chapter 1. By the time I found my ex's brother shirtless in my honeymoon suite, I had already cried once in airport security, twice over a $19 margarita, and exactly 0 times over the man who had dumped me. For the record, the airport cry was about the dog I saw in a carrier at the gate, a golden retriever with a bandana. It had nothing to do with Dylan. The margaritas were overpriced, and the salt rim was uneven, and anyone would have cried. I tell myself this as the elevator carries me up to the 5th floor of Isla Maravilla Resort, a place so aggressively romantic that the lobby has a fountain shaped like 2 swans kissing, and the check-in attendant said, "Welcome, you two," before registering that I was standing alone at the desk with 2 carry-on bags and the expression of someone who has recently made several poor decisions. "Just me," I told him. He looked behind me, then at his screen, then at me again. "Of course. And congratulations on your romantic getaway, Ms. Vale. The honeymoon suite has been prepared for 2. "Wonderful," I said. He handed me 2 key cards. I took both of them because the alternative was explaining, and I was not going to explain. I had a plan. The plan was go upstairs, unpack, order room service, and spend the next 7 days proving to absolutely no one that I am fine. That I have always been fine. That Dylan Moretti dumping me 2 weeks before our prepaid, nonrefundable, couples-only vacation to a tropical resort was, in fact, a gift. The elevator opens. The hallway smells like jasmine and coconut and money. There are rose petals on the floor outside my door. Actual rose petals. A small card in a cream envelope is tucked against the door handle. I pick it up. "Wishing you a perfect escape, Mr. and Mrs. Moretti." I stand there for a moment, holding the card. Then I put it in my bag because I am not leaving evidence, and I slide the key card into the lock. The door swings open. Luke Moretti is standing 6 feet away with a towel around his waist and water still running down his chest from what was clearly an outdoor shower, and he looks exactly as surprised to see me as I am to see him, which is to say, he looks like a man who has briefly forgotten how to be a person. I say, very calmly, "What?" "Harper. What are you doing in my room?" "This is also my room." I look at him. I look at the room. The king-size bed with its white duvet turned down on both sides, a single chocolate on each pillow. The balcony with 2 chairs angled toward the water, the champagne on ice, the fruit plate arranged in the shape of a heart. "No," I say. "This is my room. I booked this room. Dylan and I booked this room 8 months ago, and then Dylan decided he needed space, and now I am here alone, and you need to tell me right now why you are standing in my honeymoon suite with nothing on." "I have a towel on." "Luke." He reaches for the shirt draped over the back of the armchair, which tells me he's been here long enough to make himself comfortable, which is information I don't know what to do with yet. He pulls it on, buttons 2 buttons, and runs a hand through his wet hair. Then he looks at me with the particular steadiness he has always had, the kind that makes you feel like you're the one being unreasonable. "Dylan transferred his half of the booking to me," Luke says. "He called me 2 days after he called you, said the reservation was non-refundable, and he didn't want it to go to waste." The sentence lands somewhere behind my sternum. "He transferred it to you," I repeat. "Yes." "He didn't call me. He didn't ask if that was okay. He just—" "I know." "He handed you my vacation." "He handed me a discounted flight and a week off," Luke says. "I didn't know you'd be here. He told me you were skipping it." I set my bag down on the floor, very carefully, because the alternative is throwing it at something. "Of course he told you that. Of course, because that's what he does. He makes a mess and then rearranges the story so nobody notices until it's too late. I cross to the house phone on the nightstand. I'm calling the front desk. I already did. I pick up the receiver anyway. Luke doesn't stop me. He sits on the edge of the armchair and waits while I dial 0 and explain the situation to a very polite woman named Camila, who has a sympathetic voice and absolutely no solutions. The resort is fully booked. The couples package cannot be split. The refund window closed 90 days ago. She is so sorry. She hopes we enjoy our stay. I hang up the phone. The room is very quiet. The ocean is visible through the open balcony doors, flat and blue and indifferent. One night, Luke says. We figure it out tonight and find a solution tomorrow. There is no solution. She just told me there's no solution. There's always something. A cancellation, a different room category, something. He says it the way he says most things, like the outcome has already been decided and the conversation is just catching up. One night, that's all I'm asking you to commit to. I look at the bed, then at the 2 chocolates, then at Luke, who is watching me with the quiet, careful attention he has always given me. The kind I used to think was just his default setting, and eventually understood was something else entirely. Something I never let myself look at directly. Dylan didn't even warn you I might be here, I say. No. So he set this up and told us both different stories. That's my read. That's a very calm way to talk about your brother engineering a situation designed to humiliate me. I don't think he thought it through that far, Luke says. That would require him to think about someone other than himself for 2 consecutive minutes. It's the driest thing I've heard all day, and it punches a short, startled laugh out of me before I can stop it. I press my fingers to my mouth. Luke doesn't smile exactly, but something shifts at the corners of his eyes. I don't want to laugh, I tell him. I know. He sent me a text that said he was sorry for the timing. That was the whole thing, the whole apology. 8 months of planning, and he sent a text with 2 sentences and then transferred his half of a vacation to his older brother like a concert ticket. Harper. And now I'm standing in a room with rose petals and a chocolate on my pillow, and the front desk thinks we're newlyweds, and I cannot. I stop, take a breath. The champagne is sitting in its bucket, already sweating in the heat. I cannot deal with that right now. Luke gets up. He goes to the small bar cart near the balcony, fills a glass with water from the carafe, and sets it on the table nearest to me. He doesn't hand it to me directly, doesn't make a production of it. He just puts it there and steps back, giving me room. Sit down if you want, he says. You don't have to figure anything out in the next 5 minutes. I don't sit. I pick up the water and drink half of it standing up because I need something to do with my hands, and it turns out cold water is the right answer when your nervous system has been running on airport coffee and Spite since 6 in the morning. The check-in guy congratulated me, I say. He said, "Welcome, you two," and looked for someone behind me. The card on the door says Moretti, Luke says. I know. I read it. I can call down and have them change it. To what? Happy divorce vacation? Surprise! Your ex gave away your booking? I set the glass down. There's a heart made out of pineapple on the fruit plate, Luke. The shower has 2 heads. There is a couple's itinerary in a leather folder on the desk with our names on it, and it includes a sunset photo shoot. He looks at the folder, then back at me. We don't have to do any of that. We paid for it. You paid for it. Dylan paid for it. Either way, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. He pauses. But if it helps, the dinner reservation looks good. The restaurant is right on the water. I stare at him. I'm just saying, Luke says. Are you trying to make me feel better right now? I'm trying to point out that the food doesn't care why we're here. I look at him for a long moment. He's still damp at the edges, hair not quite dry, shirt half buttoned over a chest that I am making a point not to think about. And he's standing in the middle of a honeymoon suite, looking at me like this is a completely manageable situation that we will handle in a rational, organized way. Like he's always been here. Like this isn't completely insane. One night, I say. One night, he agrees. And you sleep on that side. I point to the left half of the bed, the far side, the side closer to the balcony. That's fine. And tomorrow morning we go back to the desk first thing and we find another solution, because there is always something. Cancellations, a rollaway cot, another room category. Agreed. And you're going to stop being so calm about this, because it's making me feel unhinged. He considers this for a moment. I could pretend to be more upset. Would it be convincing? Probably not. I pick up my bag from the floor and carry it to the closet on the right side of the room, because I need something to organize, and unpacking is organizing. And right now my options are organizing or crying, and I already hit my quota for today. 3 times is a limit I set for myself somewhere over the Atlantic. Behind me, Luke moves back toward the balcony. I hear him pour water for himself. The ocean is still out there, flat and blue and enormous, and the sun is starting to drop toward the horizon, and the whole thing looks exactly like every photo I saved to a folder on my phone 8 months ago when Dylan and I were planning this trip, and I was the kind of person who made folders. I close the closet and turn around. For what it's worth, Luke says from the balcony doorway. He's an idiot. That's not worth very much right now. I know, he says, but it's still true. I look at him standing there, with the ocean at his back and the last of the afternoon light catching the edges of his face. And the worst part, the genuinely terrible part, is that he means it. He's not saying it to be kind. He's saying it because he has always seen Dylan clearly, without the filter I kept choosing to look through. And he's been saying it for longer than I've been willing to hear it. I go to the fruit plate. I pick up a piece of pineapple from the edge of the heart. The dinner reservation, I say. What time? 7:30. I eat the pineapple. It's perfect. Of course it's perfect. Everything at this resort is perfect. And I am here with my ex's older brother and a couple's itinerary and 2 chocolates on a pillow. And I am absolutely, completely fine. Okay, I say. 7:30, Chapter 2. The pillow situation, I say, is non-negotiable. Luke looks at the bed, then at the stack of decorative pillows I've already pulled from the closet shelf. There are 6 of them, plus the 4 that came on the bed, and I have arranged them in a line down the center of the mattress with the precision of a woman who has spent the last hour pretending she is not about to share a bed with her ex-boyfriend's older brother. That's a lot of pillows, he says. That is a border. There's a difference. He sets his toiletry bag on the bathroom counter and comes back to study the construction. The border is actually quite good. I've staggered the heights so there are no gaps. It bisects the king mattress into 2 generous halves, each with its own nightstand, its own lamp, its own chocolate that neither of us has touched. I'm not going to cross it, Luke says. Of course you're not, because it's there. He doesn't argue. He pulls his duffel bag onto his side of the bed and starts unpacking, which is when I decide that ground rules are essential and I need to say them out loud before they live only in my head, which is not a safe place for anything right now. Rules, I say. We need rules. All right. 1. This is not romantic. Nothing about this is romantic. The rose petals, the champagne, the heart-shaped pineapple, the couple's itinerary in the leather folder. None of that applies to us. We are two people in a room. Roommates. Accidental ones. Understood. 2. We don't tell Dylan unless we have absolutely no other choice. And I mean no other choice, like someone is legally required to disclose it. Luke folds a shirt and sets it in the drawer without looking up. Fine. 3. You cannot look at me with older brother eyes. He looks up. Define that. You know what I mean. That look. The patient, concerned, I see everything you're doing look. I'm getting it right now, actually. I'm just looking at you. Then look somewhere else. He goes back to the duffel bag. I keep going. 4. I am permitted 1 dramatic cocktail per day. Not 2, not 3. 1. That is not a cry for help. That is a vacation. Noted. 5. No physical contact unless it is to prevent death or public humiliation. Those are the only 2 acceptable reasons. What counts as public humiliation? I'll know it when I see it. Useful, Luke says. 6. We do not talk about the breakup. We do not analyze it, dissect it, compare notes on it, or discuss how long he was doing whatever he was doing before he officially ended things. It's done. I'm here. We move forward. He closes the drawer and turns around, leaning back against the dresser with his arms crossed, not confrontationally, just waiting, the way he waits for things, like time is something he has plenty of. That's 6, he says. That's 6. I have 1 to add. I cross my arms to match him. You're not in a position to add rules. 7, he says, like I didn't speak. You stop telling me you're fine when you're not. The room is quiet for a beat. Outside, the ocean is doing what it does, indifferent and ongoing, and the ceiling fan turns in slow, lazy circles overhead. I am fine, I say. Harper. I'm handling it. Those are 2 different things. I pick up my cosmetics bag and carry it to the bathroom because the conversation is over, as far as I'm concerned, and motion is the fastest way to end something. I arrange my moisturizer and my face wash in a line on the left side of the sink because he's already claimed the right with his toiletry bag, and I am not a person who takes up more space than she's been given. Luke appears in the doorway. He doesn't come in. He leans against the frame, and I watch him in the mirror without turning around. Rule 7 stands, he says. Fine, but I get to define fine for myself. Fair enough, he says, and he goes back to his side of the room, and I do not know what to do with a man who concedes a point without making you feel like you lost something in the process. I unzip the front pocket of my suitcase to pull out my book, which is the only item I packed that is entirely for me, with no practical function and no agenda. I set it on the nightstand. Luke glances at it from his side of the pillow border. You already read the ending, he says. It is not a question. I stop moving. How do you know that? The spine. The back half is more worn than the front. You read the ending first, then start from page 1. I look at the book. He's right. And I don't know what to do with the fact that he noticed it in under 4 seconds. So I set the book face down on the nightstand and go back to unpacking. Dylan thought that was a weird habit, I say, before I can stop myself. It's not weird, Luke says. You want to know where you're going before you commit to the trip. I pull a sundress out of my suitcase and shake it out harder than necessary. Don't psychoanalyze my reading habits. I wasn't. I was agreeing with you. It sounded like psychoanalyzing. It sounded like a compliment, he says, and hangs his own shirt in the closet. I put the sundress on a hanger. We unpack in silence for a few minutes, and it is the specific silence of two people who are carefully not looking at each other, which is its own kind of looking. He opens the minibar and scans it. There's coconut rum. Hard pass. I know, he says. I was going to move it to the back. My hands go still inside the suitcase. What? You hate coconut rum. You said so at Sloane's birthday thing, the one with the beach house. He moves two little bottles to the back of the shelf without looking up. You said it tastes like sunscreen and bad decisions. I said that. I said that 18 months ago at a party I barely remember, surrounded by people and noise and way too many paper umbrellas. And I said it once, as a passing comment, and he remembered it. Dylan used to order me coconut rum and pineapple as a joke. He thought it was funny. He still did it a year in. Luke, I say. How do you remember things like that? He closes the minibar and straightens up. I pay attention. To me? He doesn't answer immediately. He picks up the couple's itinerary from the desk and flips through it, and his face gives me absolutely nothing, which is either a very controlled choice or simply who he is, and I have never been able to tell the difference. The dinner tomorrow is a private terrace, he says. Sunset timing. Do you want to go? You're changing the subject. I'm asking about dinner. Luke. Harper. He sets the folder down and looks at me directly, and I can already see Rule 3 being tested. That specific quality of attention that makes me feel like I'm standing in better light than usual, and I'm not sure whether to step into it or out of it. Yes, to you. The room is very quiet. That's a strange thing to say, I tell him. You asked. You could have just said you have a good memory. I have a good memory, he says, specifically where you're concerned. Those are different things, and you know it. I go back to the suitcase. There's a knot in the shoulder strap of a bag that doesn't need untangling, but I work at it anyway because my hands need something to do, and the alternative is standing in the middle of a honeymoon suite having a feeling, and I have already had enough of those today to last a reasonable person a week. A knock comes at the door. 2 sharp raps, then a third. Housekeeping, a voice says from the hallway. We have the welcome amenity for the couple. Luke and I look at each other across the pillow border. I'll get it, I say, and I cross to the door and open it. The housekeeper is holding a tray with a small bottle of champagne, 2 flutes tied with ribbon, and a card that says, For the Lovebirds, in gold script. She is smiling with the full warmth of someone who genuinely believes she is making a romantic moment better. Compliments of the resort, she says, for your honeymoon. Congratulations. Thank you, I say. We're actually not. I stop. She is still smiling. The champagne is already on the tray, and there is literally no version of this explanation that ends with anyone feeling good about it. Thank you, I say again, and I take the tray. She beams and tells me to enjoy the evening and walks back down the hall. And I close the door and turn around with the tray in my hands and the 2 ribbon-tied flutes clinking softly against each other. Luke is watching me from across the room. She wished us a happy honeymoon, I say. I heard. She thinks we're in love. She thinks we're newlyweds, specifically. That's worse. I set the tray on the desk next to the leather itinerary folder. The sunset photo shoot is on day 3. Did you see that? They're going to want us to look at each other meaningfully on a beach. We can skip it. We paid for it. You keep saying that like money is the reason to do things. I keep saying that because someone in this room is practical. There are 2 people in this room, Luke says. Debatable. I look at the champagne. I look at the flutes. I look at the card that says Lovebirds in gold script. Do you know what the couple's activity is for tomorrow afternoon, before the dinner? Partner yoga, he says. Partner yoga, I repeat, as in the kind where someone puts their foot on your hip. I assume. I would rather be hunted for sport, I say. Luke smiles. Not a polite smile, not the careful, almost something I've been watching all evening. An actual smile, quiet and real, and it changes his whole face in a way I was not prepared for and cannot look directly at. So I look at the champagne instead and decide that tomorrow's dramatic cocktail allotment might need to start tonight. Chapter 3. Partner yoga, I say, is not a real activity. It's a trust fall with a Sanskrit name. Luke is already walking ahead of me on the path toward the yoga deck, and he doesn't slow down. You agreed to the couples package. I agreed to a vacation. The package came attached, like a parasite. The resort coordinator finds us before we make it past the pool. Her name tag says Priya, and she is carrying a clipboard and moving with the specific velocity of a woman who has herded reluctant tourists before and will do it again without mercy. The Moretti party! Perfect timing. She beams at us like we are the best thing that has happened to her morning. We were just about to start. Right this way. I look at Luke. He looks at me. There is a very small window in which either of us could invent a reasonable excuse. And we both miss it because Priya is already moving and the path only goes one direction. We could fake a sprained ankle, I say, low enough that only he hears it. Yours or mine? Whichever one you're more willing to sell. Walk faster, he says. The yoga deck is open air, perched above the water on a platform of pale wood, with mats already laid out in pairs and a ceiling of rattan filtering the morning light into thin gold stripes. There are two other couples already stretching. One is approximately 60 and wearing matching visors. The other is young enough to still be on their honeymoon and clearly does not need instruction on how to be close to each other. The instructor's name is Marco. He has excellent posture and the calm, encouraging voice of a man who has never once said anything unkind. He smiles at us like we are delightful. Welcome. And you two are? Harper and Luke, Priya supplies from the edge of the deck, checking us off her clipboard before disappearing back down the path. Beautiful. How long have you been married? I open my mouth. Luke opens his mouth. Neither of us says anything for a beat that goes slightly too long, and Marco is still smiling, and the couple with the matching visors are watching us with pleasant interest. It's complicated, I say. Marco nods like this is a perfectly reasonable answer. Aren't all the best ones? He gestures toward the last empty pair of mats. Find your space. We'll begin. Luke leans toward me as we cross to our mats. Complicated. It was the first word that came out. You could have said 6 months. I panicked. It's done. Play along. He steps onto his mat without further comment, which I am choosing to interpret as agreement. Marco starts them with something simple. Breathing. Sitting cross-legged back to back, spines touching, supposed to breathe in tandem. Luke's back is warm through his shirt, and his spine is very straight. And after about 15 seconds of this, I realize I have been holding my breath, which is the opposite of the assignment. Inhale, Marco says. Feel your partner's breath behind yours. Let your rhythms sink. Luke exhales slowly. I feel it move through his back into mine. I breathe out a second later, not because I am trying to sink anything, but because apparently my lungs have decided to take direction from him without consulting me first. Good, Marco says. And he might be talking to the whole group, but it still feels pointed. Then comes the standing work. The first pose requires us to face each other, hold each other's forearms, and lean back into a counterbalanced squat. Luke grips my forearms. My hands close around his. He is very steady, and I am suddenly aware that I have not been this close to him since he caught my elbow in the resort lobby yesterday when I tripped on my own suitcase wheel. Lean back, Marco says. Trust your partner's weight. Let them anchor you. We lean. It works. That is genuinely annoying. Good connection, Marco says, and moves on to the next couple. Don't say anything, I tell Luke. I wasn't going to. You had a look. I'm holding you over a yoga deck. I'm focused. The second pose is worse. We stand side by side, arms around each other's waists, and attempt something that Marco calls a lateral tree pose, which is a real tree pose except you are leaning on another person and supposed to make it look effortless. Luke's arm settles around my waist with a casualness that makes it worse somehow, like it belongs there. Like he has done this before, which he has not, and I have not, and none of this is real. I get the pose. I hold it. I am doing fine. Then Marco says, now, close your eyes. Feel the ground through your partner's steadiness. And I make the mistake of actually doing it, and something about the combination of the warmth of Luke's arm and the sound of the water below and the morning air makes my balance shift in a way I did not plan for. I go sideways. Not far, not dramatically, but enough. Luke's arm tightens around my waist before I finish moving, and he pulls me back upright with the kind of automatic competence that suggests he has very good reflexes, which I already knew, and still was not ready for applied directly to my ribcage at 8:30 in the morning. Rule 5, I say, under my breath. He keeps his arm where it is. You were about to fall off a yoga deck. I had it. You were listing at a 40-degree angle. That's an exaggeration. Preventing public humiliation, he says, very quietly, directly beside my ear. Rule 5 covers it. He is not wrong. He is also still holding my waist, and Marco is asking the group to hold the pose for another breath, and I do not move, and he does not move, and the water below the deck is very blue, and the sky is the kind of blue that makes you feel like something is about to happen. Open your eyes, Marco says. Look at your partner. I look at Luke. He is already looking at me, which means he did not close his eyes in the first place, and I have no idea what to do with that information, so I file it in the growing cabinet labeled, Do Not Open. We get through the rest of the session by mutual unspoken agreement to stop discussing the rules and just do what Marco says. There is a pose that requires me to stand on Luke's thighs, which is approximately as awkward as it sounds, and one that involves our palms pressed flat together while we push against each other to stay upright, and one at the end where we sit facing each other with our feet touching and hold hands while we alternate pulling each other forward into a stretch. His hands are dry, mine are not, which is humiliating, but there is nothing to be done about it. Beautiful, Marco says, looking at us. You two have a very natural physical communication. You anticipate each other well. We've had practice, Luke says pleasantly, and I kick him lightly with the side of my foot because we are still sitting with our feet touching, and it is the only available option. He absorbs it without reacting, naturally. At the end, while everyone is rolling up their mats, the couple with the matching visors approaches us. The woman has silver hair and the satisfied expression of someone who has been happily married long enough to find other people's happiness genuinely moving. 32 years, she says, as if we asked, and I still watch my husband like that sometimes. She pats my arm. Hold on to that. It's rare, her husband nods. He has the quiet agreement of a man who has learned when to let his wife do the talking. They smile at us and head back down the path, visors bobbing. I watch them go. Luke rolls up his mat beside me. Neither of us says anything for a moment. She thought we were... I start. I know. We weren't actually... I know, Harper. I pick up my mat. It gives me something to do with my hands, which are still warm from where his palms were pressed against them. And I am not going to think about that, because thinking about it is the exact kind of thing that leads to the cabinet labeled, "Do not open," getting opened. And today has already been complicated enough without adding that. My phone buzzes in the pocket of my shorts. I pull it out as we walk back down the path toward the main resort, and the name on the screen makes me stop walking. Dylan. I open the message. It takes me 3 readings to understand what it says, and by the 3rd, I am standing very still in the middle of the garden path with bougainvillea overhead and the smell of salt air and Luke a half step ahead of me before he notices I've stopped. The text says, "Luke's been checking on you, hasn't he? I figured he would. He can't help himself. Just want to make sure you know he's not there by accident." I read it again. The garden is very quiet. Someone, somewhere near the pool, is laughing. Luke turns around when he realizes I'm not behind him. He looks at me, then at my phone. His expression does not change, which is either because there is nothing to change or because he is very good at keeping his face still. And I have been trying to figure out which one it is since yesterday. "Dylan texted," I say. "Okay." "He says you're not here by accident." I look at him. "He says you've been checking on me." Luke's jaw shifts. It is a small movement. I would have missed it yesterday, but I have been watching his face for approximately 24 hours now, and I catch it. "Harper," he says. "No." I put my phone back in my pocket. "Tell me the truth. Did he send you?" Chapter 4. "Did he send you here?" I ask again, because I am still standing in the garden path, and Luke has not answered me, and I need an actual answer, not a jaw shift and a pause and his version of careful. "No," he says. Dylan's text says otherwise. "Dylan's text says I've been checking on you. That's true. It doesn't say he asked me to come." "That's a very specific distinction." "It's the correct one." I walk past him, not toward anything in particular, just away from the garden path and the bougainvillea and the morning, which has been too much already. He falls into step beside me without being invited, which is its own kind of answer about the type of person he is. We make it back to the suite. The door closes behind us, and I turn around and look at him straight on, which is something I have been avoiding, because it is harder to be angry at someone when you are actually facing them. "Say it plainly," I tell him. "All of it." Luke sets his rolled yoga mat against the wall. He crosses his arms, not defensively, more like a man settling in for something he has been waiting to say. "Dylan mentioned you'd be here alone. He made it sound like he was worried about you. I knew what that was." "What was it?" "Him wanting someone else to feel bad about what he did." He says it evenly, no heat, like he has watched this pattern long enough that it doesn't surprise him anymore. He didn't ask me to come. He floated the information and expected me to either go or feel guilty for not going. I went. "Because you felt guilty?" "Because I couldn't stand the thought of you at a couples resort alone, being handed sunset dinners for 2 and champagne you didn't ask for. Because my brother is careless with people and then moves on and leaves the wreckage for other people to feel bad about. That lands somewhere I was not prepared for it to land, and I do the thing I always do when something gets past my defenses, which is get louder. So I'm the wreckage. That's the word you went with. Harper. No, I want to be sure I understand. You felt so sorry for me that you flew to a tropical island. You're here out of pity. That's what you're describing. That is not what I'm describing. It sounds exactly like what you're describing. I came because I wanted to. He says it without flinching, without softening it, without the qualifier I keep waiting for. Not because Dylan guilted me into it. Not because I felt obligated. I wanted to come. The room is very quiet for a second. That's worse, I say. How? Because if you came out of pity, I can be angry at you for it. If you came because you wanted to, I don't know what to do with that. He doesn't say anything. I grab my room key off the counter and my sunglasses off the table, and I walk out, because staying in this room with him right now is not something I'm capable of. The pool is on the east side of the resort, tucked below a terrace of palms with a swim-up bar at the far end and white-cushioned loungers arranged in rows. It is mid-morning, which means it is not yet crowded. I find a chair away from the families and the honeymooners, and I sit down and I take off my sandals, and I decide I am fine. I am absolutely fine. The swim-up bar has a bartender who is young and tan and smiling at everyone who approaches with the professional warmth of someone paid to be delightful. I go to the bar because I am fine, and fine people get poolside drinks at 10 in the morning on vacation. What can I get you? He asks. Something with rum and something with fruit and something that comes with an umbrella. Big umbrella or small umbrella? Biggest you have. He laughs. His name tag says Marco, which is unfortunate given the morning I have had, but he is a different Marco, and I am not holding it against him. He makes my drink with a kind of theatrical flair that suggests he enjoys his job, and when he slides it across the bar, the umbrella is genuinely enormous, hot pink, and I feel slightly better immediately. Vacation solo? He asks. Apparently not. I take a sip. The rum is generous. But trying my best. You're doing great, he says, and grins, and it is easy and uncomplicated, and I lean into it because easy and uncomplicated sounds wonderful right now. He asks where I'm from. I tell him. He tells me about the resort, how he's been here 2 seasons, how the sunsets on the west side of the island are different from anywhere else he's been. He is perfectly pleasant and attentive, and I am being charming back, the version of charming I know how to do when I need to prove something to myself, and it is working, more or less, until it stops working. You should come back tonight, he says. I'm on until close. I'll make you something off menu. Maybe, I say. I'm serious. He leans on the bar. The stars here are unreal. Better with company. I'll think about it.
Come back at 8. I'll be here.
He says it the way men say things when they have already decided the answer and are just waiting for you to agree with them. And the pleasant, easy feeling starts to have an edge to it. I pick up my drink and smile and take a small step back. I said maybe, I tell him. Sure. He doesn't move. But 8 o'clock. I'll save you the good seat. He is not doing anything alarming. He is not crossing any clear line. But he is also not reading the signal I am sending, and the signal is not subtle, and I am about to say something much less pleasant than maybe when I hear footsteps on the pool deck behind me. Hey. Luke's voice is easy, no edge, no possession in it. He stops beside me, close enough that the bartender's eyes shift to him. Do you want me to stay? He asks me. Not the bartender, not the situation, me, directly. In a tone that makes clear, the answer genuinely goes either way as far as he's concerned. I look at the bartender, who has straightened up and is polishing a glass with fresh interest in the middle distance. I look at my enormous pink umbrella. Yes, I say. Luke sits down on the bar stool next to mine and orders a water, and the bartender produces it without further commentary about 8 o'clock or unreal stars, and that is the end of that. We sit there for a minute without talking. The pool is filling up slowly. A kid near the shallow end is doing cannonballs, and his mother is counting down from 5 each time and not stopping him. You were watching, I say. I was sitting over there. He tips his chin toward a chair near the palms, far enough away that I genuinely hadn't noticed him. I wasn't watching for problems. I just happened to be there. Right. I wasn't going to step in unless you wanted me to. I know. I stir my drink. The umbrella tilts dramatically. You asked. I'm not here to make decisions for you. I noticed. I take a sip. It's strange. Strange. Men don't usually ask. They just decide and then tell you what they decided, and then act surprised when you have a reaction to it. Chapter 5. Stop looking at the camera, the photographer says, and adjusts Luke's chin with 2 fingers like he's a prop. Look at her. Luke looks at me. I had not prepared for that. I had prepared for the sunset, which is genuinely absurd, all orange and pink like someone threw paint at the horizon. I had prepared for the awkwardness of being photographed together on a beach where every other couple is actually a couple. I had not prepared for Luke Moretti turning his full attention on me like I'm the only fixed point in his field of vision. Perfect, the photographer says. Now, Harper, can you put your hand on his chest? Absolutely, I say, in the bright, cooperative voice of someone who is absolutely not nervous. My hand goes to the center of his chest. He's wearing a white linen shirt, open at the collar, and under the fabric, his heart is hammering. Not the slow, even rhythm of a man who is comfortable. Something faster, something that matches mine more closely than I want to admit. Chin up a little, the photographer tells me. There, now hold that. The shutter goes. The light is gold and falling, and Luke is still looking at me the way the photographer asked him to, which is the way a person looks at someone they love. And the problem is that nothing in his face suggests he's performing it. Beautiful, the photographer says. One more, just like that. I keep my hand where it is. His heart doesn't slow down. Got it, the photographer says finally, and the spell breaks, and I take my hand back and look out at the water, because the water is easier. That wasn't so bad, Luke says. You're a natural, I tell him. Very convincing. He doesn't say anything to that. The photographer is already walking down the beach toward the next couple, camera swinging from the strap around her neck. Your heart was racing, I say, because I apparently have no self-preservation instinct left after 3 days in a tropical honeymoon suite with this man. Luke is quiet for a moment. The waves come in and pull back. I know, he says. That's all he says. I don't push it. We walk back up the beach in the direction of the resort as the sun finishes dropping, and neither of us mentions it again. And the not mentioning it takes up more space than any conversation would have. The champagne is already on the balcony when we get back to the suite. The resort leaves it as part of the package, condensation on the bucket, 2 glasses that catch the last of the light. I change out of my sandy dress and pull on something softer, and grab both glasses before Luke has a chance to be polite about it. Sit down, I tell him, handing him one. He sits. The balcony overlooks the water, and the sky has gone from orange to a deep, bruised pink, and the lights of the resort are just starting to glow below us. We should look at the photos, I say. We should, he agrees. And neither of us reaches for a phone. I pull my knees up and lean against the rail and watch the water and try not to think about his heart under my hand on a beach 30 minutes ago. "Can I ask you something?" I say. "You never ask permission," he says. "I'm trying something new." I take a sip. "When Dylan and I were together, did you ever think I was too much?" Luke turns his glass in his hand. "Too much how?" He used to say that. Not directly. He'd say things like, "You're so intense about this," or, "Not everything needs to be a whole thing, Harper." Whenever I wanted to talk about the future, whenever I had a strong opinion about something, he made it feel like wanting things was an inconvenience. I don't look at him while I say this. The water is easier to talk to. After a while, I started trimming myself down, apologizing for caring, pretending I was more casual than I am about everything, because casual was the version of me that fit into his life without making him uncomfortable. Luke doesn't say anything right away. I'm used to this from him now. He waits until he has something real to say instead of something comfortable. "No," he says finally. "I never thought that." That's a kind answer. It's the true one. Wanting to be loved properly isn't neediness. Dylan called it that because it was easier than admitting he wasn't capable of giving it to you. I absorb that. The pink in the sky is fading to purple, and the stars are beginning to show at the edges, faint and then brighter. I kept thinking if I was quieter, easier, less, he'd finally settle, I say. That there was some version of me that would make him want to stay. I take a drink. There wasn't. He just left anyway. And I was standing there, smaller than when I started, and he was already fine. "He was fine because it was never about you," Luke says. "Dylan loves being adored. He's not built for actually loving someone back. Those are different things." I know that now. You knew it then, too. I look at him. He meets it straight on, no apology in it. "Yeah," I say. "I did." We sit with that for a while. The champagne goes down, the stars get brighter. A boat passes far out on the water, its light small and steady, and I watch it until it disappears. "Can I ask you something now?" Luke says. "Fair." "Did you know I didn't like you with him?" I pause with my glass halfway to my mouth. "I assumed it was a brother thing, that you thought he could do better, or that you thought I wasn't serious enough, or—" "No," he says. "Then what was it?" He sets his glass down on the small table between our chairs. He leans forward, elbows on his knees, and he looks out at the water the way I was doing before, like it's easier to say hard things when you're not looking at the person you're saying them to. "It wasn't about Dylan," he says. "I didn't hate it because you were dating my brother. I hated it because Dylan was wasting the one thing I actually wanted." The word "wanted" sits in the air between us and doesn't move. Luke. "I noticed you the first time he brought you to a family dinner. You were funny and sharp, and you called my uncle out on something at the dinner table that every single person in that room had been too polite to say for 15 years. And you didn't even realize you'd done it." He pauses. I stepped back. He was already in it. You were happy. That was the right call. "You never said anything." "There was nothing to say. He was my brother, and you were with him, and that was the end of it." "For 3 years," I say. "For 3 years." I set my glass down. My hands are steady, which surprises me because nothing else feels steady. "And now?" He looks at me then, fully, the way he did on the beach when the photographer asked him to look at me like he loved me. And the difference is that no one is asking him to do it now. He stands up, and I stand up, and it happens so naturally that I'm not sure who moved first. We're close, closer than the balcony requires. The air smells like salt and night flowers, and the champagne is still cold in my hand. He reaches up and tucks a strand of hair behind my ear, and the touch is so careful it almost undoes me. Then he stops. He takes one step back, just one, enough that the warmth between us breaks. "I can't be the next bad thing that happens to you," he says. His voice is low and even, but there's something strained underneath it, something it's costing him to say. I look at him. The lights of the resort glow below us, and the stars are fully out now, and his face is the most honest thing I've seen in years. "What if I want something bad?" I whisper. Neither of us moves. Chapter 6. "You're going to love this," I tell Luke, already walking ahead of him down the corridor toward the spa. Forced relaxation. A stranger's hands on us. Absolute paradise. "You're nervous," he says. I'm enthusiastic. There's a difference. Sure there is. The spa receptionist greets us with the kind of serene smile that makes me feel loud just by existing. She leads us down a hallway that smells like eucalyptus and something floral and expensive. The lighting shifts from bright to amber somewhere around the third door. My voice automatically drops to a near whisper, which I hate because it feels like the room is winning. The treatment room is small and warm. 2 massage tables run parallel, close enough that I could reach out and touch the edge of the other one. Candles along the far shelf. A sound machine cycling through something that might be rain or might be a distant ocean. White towels folded with geometric precision at the foot of each table. Couples' rooms are more intimate than the standard, the receptionist explains pleasantly, and slips back out before I can ask her to define intimate on a legal document. I stare at the tables. Luke stares at the tables. "We've shared a bed," I say. "This is different." "How is this different?" He doesn't answer that. He gestures toward the privacy screen in the corner, and I take it, and we manage the whole arrangement with a level of practiced, careful distance that would impress a diplomat. I settle face down under the sheet before the therapist even knocks. He does the same. I hear the soft shift of him adjusting on the table 2 feet away, and then the room goes quiet. 2 therapists come in together. Soft music starts from somewhere. The session begins. For about 4 minutes, it is genuinely, blissfully fine. My shoulders are tense in ways I'd stopped noticing. The work on them is methodical and thorough, and I feel some tight thing in my neck loosen by degrees. I close my eyes. The rain sound fills the room. This is good. This is a normal, pleasant spa experience shared by 2 adults who nearly kissed on a balcony last night and then didn't sleep and spent breakfast very carefully discussing the weather. Then Luke exhales, low and slow, the way a person does when the tension finally lets go, and the sound of it does something to my stomach I refuse to catalog. I keep my eyes shut. I focus on the rain sound. I count the candles by the quality of their light through my eyelids. There are 4, probably 4. The point is to count them and not to think about the fact that he is 2 feet away and the room is very quiet. And last night he said he wanted me and then stepped back. And I said, what if I want something bad? And neither of us moved. And then, somehow, we were inside, separately, with the balcony door shut between us, like a punctuation mark we both pretended to understand. We don't speak during the session. There's nothing to say that the silence isn't already saying louder. I'm aware of him the entire time, The way you're aware of a window in a thunderstorm, that sense of something pressing against the glass. When it ends, the therapists file out quietly, and I sit up and reach for the robe on the chair beside the table and pull it on before the sheet can become a logistical issue. Luke is already upright, his robe half-tied, his hair slightly disheveled from the table. He looks more human than usual, less armored. Good? I ask. Yeah, he says. You? Great. Very relaxing. Extremely normal experience. The corner of his mouth moves. Harper. We're not doing this right now, I say pleasantly. I'm still in my robe. There's a rule. My phone buzzes on the small shelf where I left it. I reach for it mostly to have something to reach for. Dylan's name is on the screen. I feel Luke go still on the other side of the room. Not obviously. He just stops moving, the way a room stops echoing after a door closes. I answer it. Hey, Dylan says. He sounds the way he always sounds. Easy, unbothered, like a man who has never once sat in a spa room trying not to think about his brother. How's the trip? Fine, I say. Good, it's nice. Yeah? A pause. Luke being weird? I blink at the candle shelf. What? I just figured. You know how he gets. All intense and quiet and judgy. I told him it was a good deal, the booking. Didn't think he'd actually use it. But if he's being a lot, you can just, I don't know, do your own thing. The resort's big enough. He's not being weird, I say. Okay, good. I just didn't want it to be a whole thing. He laughs a little, and the laugh is the casual, deflecting kind I spent 2 years learning to recognize. You know how you can get about stuff like that. There it is. The thing is, I know the shape of this. I know exactly where it leads. Dylan says something that could go 2 ways, and I pick the easier way for him, and we both pretend the other option wasn't there. 2 years of practice. Ha, I say. Yeah, totally. It comes out before I can stop it. Automatic, smooth. The version of me that fits without friction. Okay, well, have fun, Dylan says. Tell Luke I said hey. He hangs up. I set the phone back on the shelf. The rain sound keeps cycling. The candles are still going. My robe is very soft, and the room smells like eucalyptus, and I feel suddenly, precisely, awful. He wanted to know if you were being weird, I say to the candles. I heard, Luke says. He said to say hey. I heard that too. I turn around. He's standing with his arms crossed, not in the defensive way, in the way of a man trying to keep himself from saying something before he decides if he should say it. He loses the debate. He called to ask about me, Luke says. Not about you. Not how the trip is going, not how you're doing after he dumped you 2 weeks before a vacation you'd both planned. He wanted to know if I was being difficult. He did ask how the trip was, after asking about me. Luke, and when he implied you were dramatic about it, you laughed. His voice is level. That's almost worse than if it weren't. You laughed so he wouldn't have to feel like the bad guy. I was being polite. You were making yourself smaller, again, on a phone call that lasted 90 seconds. You don't know what it was like, I say. You weren't there for 2 years of it. You saw the family dinner version and the occasional weekend. So don't stand there and explain my relationship back to me like you have the full picture. I have enough of it. You have an opinion about it. I have both. He unfolds his arms. I watched you apologize for having an emotion every time he got uncomfortable with it. I watched you frame everything you wanted as though it needed his permission to exist. That laugh just now? That was the same thing. He made a dig at you, and you smoothed it over so he could feel fine. You do it so fast, you don't even clock it anymore. My chest is tight. You don't know what I was like with him. Luke looks at me for a long moment. The candles are steady. The rain keeps going. I know what you were like before him, he says. Chapter 7. I know what you were like before him. The words are still sitting in the air between us when I say, what does that mean? Luke doesn't answer right away. He moves to the small seating area near the window, the one with the 2 chairs angled toward the ocean view, and sits down. Not to relax. More like he decided to stop standing before he said something he couldn't walk back. Say it, I tell him. You started it. You don't get to leave it half-finished. He rests his forearms on his knees. 3 years ago, your first time at a Moretti family barbecue. You were wearing a yellow sundress and arguing with Dylan's playlist. I open my mouth. Nothing comes out. You ended up by the cooler, he says. So did I. I don't know if you remember it. I remember it. I remember it the way you remember things you've decided not to think about for a long time. A cooler full of ice and canned beer. Someone's uncle burning chicken on the grill. A man I hadn't been formally introduced to yet, leaning against the fence with a bottle of water, looking at me like I'd said something funny before I'd even opened my mouth. We talked for 10 minutes, I say. Closer to 15. He isn't looking at me with any particular expression. He's just saying it, plain and even. You made a joke about the music, then about the potato salad, then about something else I can't remember, and I was laughing at all 3 before I realized how long it had been since I'd actually laughed at something. My robe feels too heavy. I haven't moved from where I'm standing near the foot of the bed. I was going to ask for your number, Luke says. I had decided to. I was working out how to do it without sounding like an idiot, and then Dylan came over. Luke? He said he'd already talked to you, that he was going to ask you out. He said it the way he says everything, like it was already done and the outcome was obvious. He pauses. I stepped back. I sit down on the edge of the bed because my legs have decided that's what's happening now. You stepped back, I repeat. He's my brother. He's your brother, I say back, and I hear the edge in my own voice before I can sand it down. And I'm what, a parking spot? First come, first served? You 2 sorted it out between yourselves and nobody thought to ask me what I wanted? It wasn't like that. Then tell me what it was like, because from where I'm sitting, 2 men had a conversation about my future, and I wasn't in the room for it. Luke is quiet for a moment. You're right, he says. That's exactly what happened. It is not the answer I was expecting. I was braced for deflection, for the kind of careful, reasonable explanation that would make me feel unreasonable for being angry. Not this. I told myself it was the right thing, he says. Honorable. He saw you first. He wanted you. I wasn't going to make it a competition over a woman I'd known for 15 minutes. He pauses. But that's the sanitized version. What's the real one? He looks at me directly. It was easier. Stepping back was easier than risking it. Dylan wanted you, and Dylan was going to pursue you, and I could tell myself I was being a good brother and not have to do the harder thing. Which was? Actually try. The rain sound machine is still going in the corner. Someone forgot to turn it off when the session ended. It fills the pause between us with its soft, cycling loop, and I think about 15 minutes by a cooler 3 years ago. The yellow sundress, the potato salad joke, The version of me who showed up to that barbecue not knowing any of this was coming. You watched him date me for 2 years, I say. Yes. You were at the Christmas dinner, the birthday thing at Sloane's beach house, the Sunday lunches. Yes. And you never... I stop. You were fine with it. No, Luke says. I wasn't fine with it. I was managing it. Those are different things. I stand up because sitting feels wrong, like it's making me smaller, when what I actually want is to take up some space. I go to the window. The ocean is doing what it always does, big and indifferent, whitecaps breaking and dissolving at the shore. I spent 2 years with a man who made me feel like I was too much, I say to the glass. Too eager, too sentimental, too ready to plan a future he wasn't interested in. And the whole time, you knew. You knew what he was like, and you stayed in your lane, and you said nothing. I tried once, Luke says behind me. Early on, I told you he'd break your heart. I turn around. At that dinner, I thought you were being overprotective. I know what you thought. That wasn't you being a good brother. That was you. I stop because the sentence has gone somewhere I wasn't planning to take it. Looking out for you, he says. Yes, and failing at it because I wasn't willing to be honest about why. I press my back against the windowsill. The robe is warm, and the afternoon light is doing something gold and generous across the suite floor. And none of this feels like the right setting for the conversation we're apparently having. So what do you want me to do with this? I ask. You noticed me first. You stepped back. You spent 3 years being honorable and quiet about it. And now we're here, and you're telling me. What's the part where I know what to... I catch myself. What's the part where any of this makes sense? There's no part like that, he says. I'm not telling you because it makes sense. I'm telling you because you called me out in that spa room for knowing something I wasn't saying, and I'm done not saying it. Stepping back wasn't honorable, I tell him. You said it yourself. I know. You let me make a decision about who to date without all the information. That's not loyalty to your brother. That's just... I shake my head. That's just 2 men deciding what I got to know. I know that too, Luke says. I'm not asking you to forgive it. I'm just done pretending it didn't happen. There's something in that, some release of pressure I didn't know I was holding. He isn't explaining it away. He isn't packaging it into something easier to swallow. He's just sitting there with it, the same way he sat with me on the balcony last night, patient and still, like he's got time to wait for whatever comes next. I think about the barbecue, the sundress, his laugh, low and sudden, when I said something about the potato salad that I honestly cannot remember anymore. I remember thinking, who is that? And then Dylan was there, easy and bright and reaching for my hand, and I stopped wondering. I wonder now. You should have asked for my number, I say. Luke exhales once, slow. Yeah. 3 years ago, by the cooler. You should have just done it. I know. Instead, we're here, in a honeymoon suite, wearing spa robes, having this conversation. The universe has a specific sense of humor, he says, and the dryness of it is so perfectly him that something loosens in my chest against my will. I laugh. It comes out short and slightly helpless, and I press my fingers against my mouth for a second to stop it from going further. Because if I start laughing, I'm going to have to admit that some small, chaotic part of me finds the whole situation genuinely absurd, and I'm not ready to be that honest yet. You made me laugh too, I tell him, that day, by the cooler. I drop my hand. I remember thinking you were funny. I don't usually think that about people right away.
Luke doesn't say anything. He just holds my gaze, and it's steady and direct the way he always is. And I hold it back because I can. I'm still angry, I say, about the stepping back, about all of it. You should be. I'm not done being angry. I didn't think you were. I turn back toward the window. The sun is getting lower, doing its slow, elaborate descent toward the waterline. Somewhere down on the beach path, I can hear the faint beat of music starting up from the direction of the resort's main terrace, the outdoor speakers they run for the evening events. I saw the activities board this morning when we passed through the lobby. I wasn't going to mention it. I had decided not to mention it. What's tonight's activity? I ask. Harper. I'm just asking. You're redirecting. Salsa night, I say, like he hadn't spoken. It's on the couples package, fully prepaid, open bar, live music, the whole thing. I look back at him. I think we should go. Luke doesn't move from the chair. You think we should go to salsa night? We've been in this room, or a spa room, or on that balcony, or in various states of emotional crisis since we got here. I think we should go be people at a party for 2 hours. And the other reason? There's no other reason. Harper. I want to collect some data, I say, about whether any of this, I gesture vaguely at the air between us, makes sense outside of a crisis setting. Whether you're still... I stop. Whether it changes anything when there's music and people around, and we're not sitting in the wreckage of some enormous conversation. Luke looks at me for a long beat. That's a terrible idea. I know, I say. Are you coming? He stands up. That's dangerous, he says quietly, and his voice has dropped into something lower and more careful. The register he uses when he's not trying to be dry or controlled, just honest. That kind of data collection. You know that. Probably, I agree, and reach for my sandals by the door. Chapter 8. You're staring, I say, without turning around. Luke doesn't answer immediately. I can see him in the mirror above the dresser, standing in the doorway of the bathroom in a dark button-down, and his eyes are doing something I am choosing not to name. The dress, he says finally. Is a dress, I say. Red, has a hem, nothing extraordinary. Harper, we're going to be late. I pick up my small bag from the dresser and turn around, and whatever I was planning to say next evaporates, because he looks like a man who has just walked into a wall he wasn't expecting. Good. I spent 45 minutes on this. He can spend 45 seconds recovering from it. Ready? I ask. He clears his throat. Ready. The resort's beach club is lit up like someone threw a party for the sun, and the sun actually showed. String lights run from post to post along the open-air terrace. The band is already playing, a 4-piece with a brass section, and a drummer who knows what he's doing. And the floor is crowded with couples who clearly signed up for this the moment they booked their rooms. A woman in a gold dress is spinning on the arm of a man who is very committed to keeping up. They are not keeping up. It doesn't seem to bother them. Open bar, I say, near Luke's ear, because the music is loud. I see it. Data collection starts with a drink. He gets us 2 glasses of something cold and lime green and fizzing, and we stand at the edge of the floor for a few minutes watching. The band shifts into something slower and more insistent, the kind of rhythm that doesn't give you a lot of options. You either move or you leave. We're on the couples package, I say. We are. Salsa lesson is included. Harper. It would be wasteful not to. Luke finishes his drink in 2 swallows and sets the glass down on the nearest surface.
Then he holds out his hand. I take it. There's a moment, right at the start, where I think this will be fine, controlled. Two people following a rhythm, staying in their respective lanes. No damage done. The instructor near the center of the floor demonstrates the basic step with cheerful efficiency, and I copy it, and Luke copies it, and we are doing great. We are doing completely great. Then his hand moves to my waist and everything recalibrates. It isn't a dramatic gesture. It's the standard hold, the same one every other couple on the floor is using. His palm is flat against the small of my back, and his other hand is closed around mine, and the distance between us is entirely reasonable by any objective standard. None of that changes what happens to my pulse. You've done this before, I say. Once. A long time ago. You're better at it than you're letting on. You're better at it than I expected, he says. That's a compliment wrapped in a very light insult. It was a compliment. You added the rest. The instructor calls out a turn, and Luke guides me through it with more confidence than someone who claims to have done this once, and when I come back around, the hand at my waist tightens slightly, just enough to keep me from stumbling, and I decide not to make anything of it. I make something of it. You're very calm, I say. One of us has to be. I'm calm. You've been collecting data since we walked in the door. You're not calm. You're cataloging. Maybe I'm doing both. We turn again. The brass section does something particularly bold, and the couple in gold beside us attempts a dip that goes sideways in a spectacular, good-natured way. Everyone around them laughs, including me, and Luke spins me once, cleanly, without warning, and I come back to face him laughing, and the expression on his face is the one I have been trying not to think about since the barbecue story last night. The one where he isn't performing anything, where he's just looking. There it is, I say, quieter now, because we've drifted slightly apart from the main cluster of dancers. There what is, he says. The data. Results are in. And? Music and people around doesn't change anything, I say. In case you were wondering, something shifts in his expression. Not softness, exactly. More like a door that was already unlocked, getting pushed open a few more inches. I know, he says. I've been trying to not know that for about 4 days. How's that going? Poorly, he says. You in that dress isn't helping. The dress is doing its job. Harper. His voice has dropped again into that register, the careful one. I'm trying to behave. I can tell, I say. It's very heroic, very noble. I tilt my chin up slightly. How much longer do you think you can keep it up? The hand at my waist doesn't move, but the pressure changes, just barely, just enough for me to feel it. Less time than I thought, he says quietly. That's the honest answer. The song ends. Another one starts up immediately, faster, and someone near the bar shouts something appreciative at the band, and the floor gets louder and more crowded, and I feel the heat of a dozen bodies and the tropical night air, and Luke's hand still at my waist, and I decide, cleanly and without drama, that I need air. Outside, I say. Yes, he says, like he had the same thought 3 seconds earlier. The beach path behind the club runs parallel to the waterline, lit only by the small solar lanterns staked into the sand every 20 feet or so. They give off just enough light to see by, and not enough to feel watched. The music from inside dulls to something muffled and rhythmic as soon as we clear the terrace, replaced by the steady, unhurried sound of the ocean, doing its thing 40 yards out. The air out here is warm and thick with salt. My skin feels different in it, looser. We walk for a minute without talking. The lanterns cast a soft glow at our feet. Luke has his hands in his pockets now, which is probably a deliberate choice. the data, he says. Confirmed, I say. That's a problem. It's a situation, I say. We can call it a situation. A situation I've been managing for several years and have done a notably bad job with this week. 3 years, I say. You've been managing it for 3 years. Yes. And Dylan transferred the reservation to you? Yes. Of all the things he's ever done, I say, that one is going to be very hard to explain to him. I know. Luke, I know, Harper. I stop walking. We're between 2 lanterns, which means we're in the darkest point on the path. The ocean, a low, constant sound to our left. The club, a muffled pulse behind us. He stops too, turning to face me. And in this light, his expression is unreadable except for his eyes, which are not unreadable at all. I've spent 2 years with someone who made every decision about us without consulting me, I say. I'm not doing that again, not in any direction. Meaning? Meaning I'm not waiting for you to decide whether this is something you're going to allow yourself to do. I hold his gaze. I'm making my own decision. He doesn't move. He barely breathes. The ocean comes in and pulls back and comes in again. I close the distance between us and kiss him. There's a fraction of a second where he doesn't respond, where his whole body is still in a way that might be resistance, or might be shock, or might just be a man catching up with something his chest already knew. And then it's over, because he kisses me back. Not carefully, not with the measured, controlled restraint he applies to everything else. He kisses me like the 3 years were a held breath, and this is finally exhaling. One hand coming up to my jaw, and the other finding the back of my head. And I put my hands against his chest and feel his heartbeat, which is not the calm, steady thing I would have expected from him. It is not calm at all. It goes on long enough that the muffled music from the club changes songs twice. Long enough that the ocean sounds closer than it did before. Long enough that when we finally separate, the air between us is warm and close, and I need a second before I can think clearly enough to form a sentence. He keeps his forehead against mine. His breathing is not entirely even. Harper, he says. I know, I say. That was... I know. He pulls back just enough to see my face, and whatever he finds there makes something in his jaw loosen, some last standing tension releasing. Is this... He starts and then stops, tries again. Is this because of him? Because you want... He pauses. Is this revenge? The question lands flat and clear in the salt air. I look at him for a moment. His hands are still framing my face, thumbs resting lightly at my cheekbones, and he's watching me with the same direct steadiness he has used since the first night. The kind that doesn't flinch and doesn't perform and doesn't let me get away with anything. He needs the real answer. He isn't going to take a shortcut. No, I say. It's not revenge. I kissed you because I wanted to, because I've been wanting to since before I admitted it to myself. And I'm tired of performing unbothered while everyone else makes choices. I hold his gaze. It's not about Dylan. It's about me finally doing something that's actually mine. Something passes through his face, something I'm not going to analyze, because if I start analyzing it, I'll talk myself out of standing here. Okay, he says, quiet and sure. Okay, I say. My phone goes off in my bag. The vibration is insistent, buzzing in 3 fast pulses that I recognize before I even pull it out. Because Dylan always calls instead of texting, and he always calls in 3s, like the first 2 were just clearing his throat. I pull the phone free, and the screen lights up between us, bright against the dark path, and Luke's eyes drop to it at the same moment mine do. Dylan Moretti calling. The ocean comes in, pulls back. I stare at the screen for 1 full second, then 2. The glow of it cool and white against the warm, tropical dark.
and Luke's hands have lowered from my face, and he's watching me with an expression that is very carefully not telling me what to do. The phone keeps buzzing. Chapter 9. I decline the call. The screen goes dark, and the path goes quiet again, and Luke watches me without saying a word, which I appreciate and also find deeply inconvenient, because a reaction would give me something to work with. We should go back inside, I say. Harper. The bar's still open, and I didn't finish my drink. We need to talk about what just happened. I start walking back toward the club. My sandals crunch on the packed sand, and the solar lanterns throw small circles of gold at my feet, one after another, like stepping stones. I know what just happened. You were there. Luke falls into step beside me, which I knew he would. I'm not trying to turn this into a deposition. I just think we should say words about it. I turn to face him without stopping, walking backward for a few steps. Assign it a category? Draft some terms? Acknowledge it exists. It exists. Acknowledged. I turn forward again. Can we go get a drink now? He catches my wrist, not hard, just enough to stop me between two lanterns where the light is thin and the music from the club is a low, rhythmic pulse. His hand drops the moment I stop moving. He doesn't press his advantage. He never does. I'm not doing this to be difficult, he says. There are real things here, real complications. I know there are complications. I kissed you, Luke. I didn't forget who you are. Then you know we can't pretend it was nothing and go get a drink. I'm not pretending it was nothing. I'm refusing to treat it like a case study. He exhales. His hands go into his pockets. He stares at the ocean for a moment, which is 40 yards away and very dark, and not going to offer him any useful guidance. Dylan is going to find out. Dylan broke up with me, I say. Dylan transferred this reservation to you without asking. Dylan doesn't get a vote. He's my brother. I know he's your brother. The music shifts behind us. Someone inside cheers. I'm not asking you to forget that. I'm asking you to stop making me feel like the problem you need to solve before you're allowed to feel anything. Luke opens his mouth. His phone goes off. Not a call, a text. Then another. Then a third. In the particular rapid-fire pattern of someone who has something urgent to say and no patience to organize it into a single message. He pulls the phone out, and I watch his jaw tighten, the way it does when he's keeping his face still on purpose. Dylan, I say. It isn't a question. He saw a photo. Luke turns the screen toward me. The resort's Instagram account has posted a sunset image from the evening before, framed beautifully, the sky all amber and rose. And right there in the center of it, laughing at something off camera, with my shoulder against Luke's arm, are the two of us. The caption reads, "Love finds its way to the shore." The resort tagged the honeymoon suite package. My face is very recognizable. So is Luke's. Well, I say. Yeah. His phone rings. Dylan, the screen says. And Luke looks at me once before stepping off the path and toward the waterline, pressing the phone to his ear. I stay where I am. I should go inside. I know I should go inside, get a glass of something cold, sit at the bar and let whatever is about to happen between them happen without me as an audience. My feet don't move. I can explain, Luke says, and then immediately, no, stop. Just let me... A pause. Dylan. His voice drops into something flat and controlled. I said stop. The ocean is loud enough that I can't hear Dylan's side of it, but I can hear Luke. And what I hear is a man trying to hold a door shut against something coming through it fast.
She's not here because of me. You transferred the reservation. You made that call without asking either of us.
Another pause. Longer.
I'm not going to apologize for being civil to someone you abandoned on a couples trip.
His voice stays level, but the word abandoned lands hard, and I feel it from 10 feet away.
You don't get to be outraged because you didn't think through the consequences of your own decision.
I should go inside. I don't go inside.
She's not a piece of property you left behind. She's a person, and you treated her like an afterthought. And I'm not going to stand here and pretend that's fine just because it's inconvenient for you to hear.
His free hand is at his side, not a fist, just still, the way Luke goes still when he's working to keep everything contained.
You never valued what you had with her. I watched you do it for 2 years. Don't act like the problem is me being here.
I stop listening after that, not because he stops talking, but because something has shifted in my chest, and it isn't the warm, steady thing from 20 minutes ago on this same path. It's something smaller and sharper and harder to name. I'm watching Luke stand at the edge of the water in the dark, fighting his brother over me, and I know he means every word he's saying. I know he's right. And I also know that being right isn't the same as being okay. He's defending me like I'm something he has a stake in, like I'm a position he's taking. I'm standing on a beach path in a red dress, listening to 2 brothers argue about me, and neither of them thought to ask what I wanted from this conversation. Luke ends the call. He stands facing the water for a few seconds before turning back. When his eyes find mine, something in his expression changes, and I know he remembers that I've been here the whole time. Harper, don't. I hold up one hand. Don't apologize for what you said. You meant it, and you weren't wrong. Okay? But I need you to hear something. I wait until he's fully facing me, not half-turned, not managing the distance, all the way present. I'm not doing this. Doing what? Being the thing you 2 are fighting about. My voice comes out steadier than I feel, which is useful. You just spent 5 minutes on the phone defending me like I'm a call you made that you need to justify, like I'm evidence in your case against him. Luke's brow pulls together. That's not what that was. I heard what it was. I was telling him the truth. He needed to hear it. Maybe. I cross my arms, not defensively, just to give my hands something to do. But at no point did anyone on that call ask what I think, what I want, what I'm comfortable with. It was 2 people negotiating over a third person who was standing right there. I wasn't negotiating. You were staking a claim, Luke. The words come out before I finish deciding to say them, and once they're out, they sit there on the sand between us, solid and true. You were telling him I was worth more than he gave me, which is kind, which I actually believe you meant. But that's still you deciding what I'm worth to the 2 of you. That's still me as the subject of the conversation, instead of a person in it. The silence that follows is not comfortable. Luke stands very still, in the way that means he's actually hearing it, not just waiting for his turn. I spent 2 years with your brother, I say, quieter now. He made every decision about us without consulting me, and when I asked for more, he called me too much. I'm not doing that again, not in any form, not even the version where someone is being nice about it. I hear you, Luke says. Good. I wasn't trying to make you a prize. I know you weren't trying. I hold his gaze. That's almost the part that bothers me most. Because if you weren't trying and it still happened, then it's a pattern, not a decision. And I can't fix a pattern by kissing someone on a beach pap. Something crosses his face. He looks at the sand, then back at me. What do you want me to say? I don't know yet. That's the honest answer, and it costs me something to give it. I want to want this. I do. But I'm not going to trade one situation where I'm an afterthought for one where I'm a trophy. I'd rather be alone in this suite for 4 more days and go home with something intact. Luke is quiet for a moment. The club behind us has shifted to something slower, and the brass section has gone mostly quiet, leaving just the guitar and the low murmur of the crowd. You're not a thing, he says. His voice is low and absolutely certain. You're not a prize or a point or a case I'm building. You're the reason I said what I said, but you were never the subject of it. There's a difference. I consider that. The ocean comes in and pulls back. The salt air is warm against my bare arms. Maybe, I say. But standing here, listening to that call, I felt like one. He holds my gaze and doesn't argue the point. That's the thing about Luke. He doesn't reach for the easy exit when the truth is uncomfortable. He just stays inside it. Then stop making me feel like a mistake, I say. He doesn't answer immediately. The lanterns flicker once in a gust off the water. The guitar from the club keeps going, unhurried, like it has all the time in the world and no particular interest in our problems. Luke stands there, my words settling over him, and for once, his expression isn't controlled at all. Chapter 10. I need to check flight availability, I say, the moment I'm back inside the suite, phone already in hand. Luke closes the door behind us. The storm shutters are down on the balcony, and without the ocean view, the room feels smaller, the ceiling lower. The air conditioning has been fighting the humidity all day and losing. Harper. There's a 9:15 out of Isla Maravilla. If I pack now, there's a Category 2 system moving through the channel, Luke says. They grounded everything at noon. I pull up the airline app anyway. The page loads slowly and then gives me exactly what he said it would. A red banner across the top. All departures suspended until further notice. A customer service number with an estimated wait time of 4 hours and 12 minutes. I stare at it long enough that it stops being information and starts being a fact I have to live inside. Fine, I say. I can take the lobby. They've got the couches near the... Stop. I set my phone face down on the counter. Stop offering to sleep in the lobby. You've offered twice now, and it's not noble, it's avoidant, and we both know it. He doesn't answer. Outside, the wind picks up, and something rattles against the shutters. Something light and fast. Palm fronds, probably, or rain starting in sideways sheets. We're stuck here, I say. Both of us, in the same room, for however long this lasts. So we can either make that miserable, or we can be adults about it. Being adults about it might be the harder option, he says. And there's something dry in it, barely there, but I catch it. Noted, I say. I'll add it to the list of hard things this week. The power goes out at 7:43. One moment the room is lit, the ceiling fan turning slowly overhead, the minibar humming in the corner, and then it isn't. The dark comes in all at once and sits there. Well, I say, resort should have emergency lighting in the corridor, Luke says. He's already moving, unhurried, crossing to the nightstand where the welcome packet left a small flashlight. He finds it by memory or by instinct, and the beam comes on and sweeps across the floor. The emergency candles are in the kit under the bathroom sink. He finds those, too. I watch him light 3 of them and set them on the low coffee table in the sitting area, and when he's done, The room looks nothing like a honeymoon suite anymore. It looks like somewhere people actually live. I raid the minibar. 2 bags of mixed nuts, a bar of dark chocolate, 4 crackers in a sleeve, a small jar of olives, and 2 bottles of sparkling water that I carry to the coffee table in a single trip. Luke has already lowered himself to the floor, back against the base of the couch. I sit across from him, legs crossed, the candles between us. "Sophisticated," he says, looking at the spread. "I was going to order room service, but someone grounded all the flights and killed the power." That was the storm. "I'm choosing to blame you." He opens the crackers. I take the chocolate. Outside, the rain is serious now, a constant, heavy percussion against the shutters, and the wind has found a low register it wants to stay in. The candles don't flicker. The air inside is too still for that. We eat without talking for a while. The olives are better than they have any right to be. The sparkling water is warm. "I was going to end it anyway," I say. Luke doesn't react, doesn't look up sharply or ask what I mean. He just waits. With Dylan, before he did it. I pull a piece of chocolate off and hold it for a second. I'd been thinking about it for months, but I kept waiting for a reason that didn't make me the one who gave up. I wanted him to do something clear enough that I could point to it. "He did," Luke says. "Eventually." I eat the chocolate. But the thing I keep sitting with is that I wasn't even heartbroken. Not really. I was embarrassed. I was afraid of what it meant about me, that he could leave that easily. But I didn't miss him the way you miss someone you love. I missed being chosen. I pick at the label on my water bottle. I confused those 2 things for a long time. The rain shifts, and the shutters rattle once, hard, and then go quiet again. "He told me once that I wanted too much," I say. Not in a fight, just offhand, like it was a fact. Like wanting a real future with someone was a character flaw I should consider addressing. I look at the candle nearest to me, the flame absolutely still. I spent 6 months trying to want less. Luke is quiet, and I can feel him deciding something. Something about whether to speak or let me keep going. "Your turn," I say. "My turn," he repeats. "I told you something true. Your turn." He leans his head back against the couch cushion and looks at the ceiling for a moment. The candlelight reaches the planes of his face and leaves the rest in shadow. "I've been the responsible one since I was 14, he says. "When my parents split, Dylan was 10 and completely lost, and someone had to hold things together. I got good at it, not having needs, not asking for things, making sure everyone else was handled." He pauses. "It works really well until it doesn't." "Until you want something for yourself?" "Until that," he agrees. "And then it turns out I don't actually know how to do that. Wanting something for myself feels like a system error, like I must be reading the situation wrong." The rain is relentless outside. Somewhere down the corridor, someone's door shuts with a dull thud. "I saw you first at Sloane's birthday thing," he says. "You were arguing with someone about a trivia answer, apparently with enough conviction that the whole deck went quiet." "I was right," I say. "You were completely right. The Battle of Hastings was 1066, and whoever said 1067 deserved everything they got." A brief pause. "Dylan introduced himself to you 20 minutes later, and I thought, good. He needs someone like that, someone who doesn't let things slide." He turns the water bottle in his hands. "Then I watched him let you slide for 2 years, and I couldn't say anything without it being about something else." "About wanting me," I say. About wanting you, he says, without hesitation, without dressing it up. The candle between us has burned down a centimeter. The wax pool around the wick is warm and clear. So you hid behind being the good brother, I say. I hid behind being the good brother. He tilts his head slightly. It's a very comfortable hiding place, very socially acceptable. Nobody questions it. Until now. Until now. I put the crackers down. I told you something true, I say, and you told me something true. And we're sitting on the floor in the dark, eating minibar olives during a tropical storm, and I don't know what to do with any of that. Neither do I, he says. But I'd rather not know together than know alone. It's such a simple thing to say. Not a speech, not a declaration. Just that. I'd rather not know together. I feel it land somewhere under my sternum. I don't want to be someone you chose because the situation made it easy, I say. I don't want this to be a vacation thing that dissolves at the airport. It won't be, he says. You don't know that. I've known it for 3 years, he says. That's not a vacation thing. That's just a thing. Outside, a gust comes through hard enough to make the whole building register it. A low sound in the walls, and then it passes. The candles stay steady. The storm keeps going. But in here, it's just us and the warm light and the minibar crackers, and 2 people who have run out of places to hide. I move the candle to the side so there's nothing between us. Then I close the distance across the floor. Not dramatically, not in a rush, just crossing the few feet of carpet until I'm sitting close enough that I can see exactly what's in his face when he looks at me. There's no performance in it, no calculation. Just Luke, looking at me the way he's apparently been not looking at me for 3 years. And now he's stopped pretending otherwise. I kiss him, slowly. He doesn't reach for me or pull me closer. He just kisses me back, steady and unhurried, one hand coming to rest at my jaw, like he has all the time in the world and no particular interest in rushing any of it. The storm keeps going outside. The candles keep burning. This is nothing like the kiss on the path. That one caught us both off guard, momentum carrying us into it before we'd made any decision. This one we both chose, clearly, with full knowledge of what it costs. No dark path and guitar music and a lucky moment. Just a deliberate, mutual yes. We stay like that until the wind shifts and the rain changes pitch, and I pull back just far enough to breathe. Okay, I say. Okay, he says. Neither of us moves very far. The candles burn. The storm outside starts to ease, just slightly, just enough that the quality of the sound changes from assault to persistence. Then the lights come back on, all of them at once. The ceiling fixture, the lamps on both nightstands, the minibar hum returning, the air conditioning kicking back in with a mechanical sigh. The room reassembles itself around us in full light, and the candles suddenly look small and unnecessary and very earnest. My phone buzzes on the counter where I left it. I look over. The screen is lit up, a notification. Voicemail, Dylan Moretti. I cross to the counter and press play before I can decide not to. Harper. His voice is casual, like he's leaving a message about lunch. I know you're probably ignoring my calls, which, fair, but I'm flying in tomorrow. I think we all need to actually talk about this in person, so... A pause. I'll see you tomorrow. The voicemail ends. I set the phone back on the counter, face down. Behind me, Luke waits. I don't turn around yet. Outside, the storm is still going. Rain against the shutters. Steady and without any interest in what just happened in this room. Chapter 11. You're not going to spend today hiding, Luke says from the bathroom doorway. I'm standing at the window with the storm shutters finally open, watching the ocean settle back into something turquoise and cooperative. The sky is clean, the way it only gets after weather has scrubbed it. I wasn't hiding, I say. I was strategically resting. The front desk said the boat excursion slots open back up at 7. I booked one. I turn around. He's already dressed, dry, unhurried, holding 2 coffee cups from the in-room machine. He holds one out. "Dylan lands tomorrow," he says. "That means today, we go snorkeling." There's no logic in that sentence, and also perfect logic in that sentence. I take the coffee. The boat is small, white-hulled, skippered by a man named Ernesto, who seems deeply uninterested in whatever is happening between us, and deeply interested in the weather radio mounted beside the wheel. We pull away from the resort dock at 8:15. The wake spreads behind us in a wide white V. The air smells clean and wet, and nothing like the suite we just left. Luke sits across from me on the narrow bench seat. His arm is resting along the rail. He's not watching the water. He's watching me, the way he's apparently decided he's allowed to now. Open and unhurried. And the first 4 times I catch him at it, I look away. The 5th time, I don't bother. "What?" I say. "Nothing," he says. "You keep doing that." "I've been not doing it for 3 years," he says. "I'm making up time." Ernesto turns up the weather radio. I face forward and let the wind take my hair and don't say anything, because there isn't anything to say to that. And besides, I'm smiling too much to be convincing. The cove takes 40 minutes to reach. It sits inside a curve of rock, sheltered enough that the water is almost completely still. Green and clear, and shallow enough near the shore that you can see the sandy bottom from the boat. Ernesto drops anchor, hands us masks and fins without ceremony, and goes back to his radio. The water is cold enough to pull a sharp sound out of me when I go in, and Luke, who entered without any reaction at all, surfaces right beside me with an expression that is technically neutral and definitely amused. "You made a noise," he says. "The water is cold." "It's 80 degrees. "Cold for 80 degrees, I say, and pull my mask down. We spend an hour in the water. There's a shelf of coral about 20 feet out where the fish are bright and entirely unbothered by us. I see something electric blue that I have no name for. I tap Luke's arm and point, and he nods, and then we float there, side by side, watching it, until it decides we're boring and moves on. Under the water, everything is muffled. The sound of my own breathing through the snorkel. The quiet rush when a current shifts. Whatever this week has been, whatever tomorrow is going to be, none of it reaches down here. There's just the coral and the blue fish, and the way the light bends through the surface in long, shifting columns. When we climb back onto the boat, I sit in the sun to dry and eat a banana from the small cooler Ernesto provides without being asked. Luke sits beside me this time, shoulder to shoulder, close enough that I can feel the warmth off his arm. "I need to tell you something," he says. "Is it about the fish?" "It's not about the fish." I finish the banana and wait. "I don't want a vacation," he says. "I want to be clear about that. I don't want 7 days and a good story and a clean ending at the airport." He's looking out at the cove, the still green water. "I want to know what you're like on a Wednesday, when nothing is happening. I want to argue with you about where to order dinner from. I want the boring version, the regular version, the version of you that nobody takes a picture of." The boat rocks gently. Ernesto has found a station he likes and turned the volume down. "That's a very specific list," I say. "I've had 3 years to make it." I look at the water. then at my hands, then at him, because there's nowhere else honest to look.
The regular version of me is a lot, I say. She has strong opinions about salad dressings, and she gets loud when she's right about something. And she has a collection of houseplants that are mostly failing. And she cried at a dog food commercial last February. And she's not always easy to be around.
I know, he says.
You don't know. You've known vacation me, and storm me, and minibar crackers on the floor me. Those are the highlight reel.
Harper. He says my name the way he does, without ornament. You argued with someone about a trivia answer until the whole deck went quiet. I knew what I was getting into. I look at him for a long moment. The sun is drying the salt on his shoulders. His expression is steady, and it has been steady since the floor of the suite last night, since the candles, since we both chose something clearly and without taking it back. I'm not doing this as a reaction to Dylan, I say. I need you to know that. This isn't me being angry or wanting to win something. I know, he says again, and this time it doesn't feel like a dismissal. It feels like he's been sitting with that exact question himself and arrived at the same place. Okay, I say. Then I want the boring version of you, too. I want to know what you're like when nobody needs anything from you. Something in his face shifts. Not dramatic, just a slight loosening, like a door that's been stuck opening the right way. I'll warn you, he says. I don't actually know who that is yet. That's okay, I say. We can find out. Ernesto starts the engine. The anchor comes up. We head back in the direction of the resort, the wake spreading behind us, the cove getting smaller until it's just a shadow in the rock. I put my hand on the bench between us. Luke puts his over it. That's all. Ernesto's radio plays something with steel drums. The water is very blue. The suite is warm when we get back, the afternoon sun having come through the windows while we were gone. I shower off the salt, and Luke showers after me, and we move around each other with an ease that would have been impossible 4 days ago. I make tea from the in-room kettle. He leans against the counter and tells me something about a job bid he's been putting off all week, something about a roof assessment in the industrial district that nobody wants but somebody has to do. And I sit cross-legged on the bed and ask questions, real ones, because I actually want to know. He asks about the plateware company, about whether the composting certifications are regional or national, and I give him more than he probably needed, and he doesn't look bored for a single second. The sun goes down while we're talking. Neither of us turns on a lamp. The room goes gold, and then amber, and then the particular blue-gray that comes just after. We should eat, he says eventually. Probably, I say. Neither of us moves. We end up ordering room service, the same menu we've been ignoring all week, and eat it on the bed with the television on and the volume low. Some nature documentary about migratory birds that neither of us is watching. At some point, the plates end up on the nightstand, and the documentary ends, and another begins, and I'm not tracking any of it, because Luke's hand is in my hair, and I've turned toward him, and the room is quiet and private and completely ours. Whatever tonight is, it's deliberate. There's no storm pushing us together this time, no power outage or crossed wires or moment that got away from us. The resort is fully operational. The lights work. We could choose anything. And we're choosing this, clearly, without any ambiguity about what it means or what it costs. I pull back just far enough. Tomorrow is going to be terrible, I say. Yes, he agrees. And we're going to be fine. Yes, he says again, and kisses me before I can come up with another reasonable objection. It's nothing like a vacation thing. It doesn't feel temporary. It feels like the beginning of something that's going to require honesty and occasional stubbornness and probably a few difficult phone calls. And I'm not afraid of any of that. I'm just here, in this room, with this man who has been quietly waiting for 3 years and who wants to know what I'm like on a Wednesday. And that's enough. That's actually more than I've ever been offered. We sleep eventually, the ceiling fan turning overhead, the ocean just audible through the window he cracked open before we turned off the light. His arm is around me, and mine is across his chest, and it's domestic in a way that should feel strange this soon, and doesn't feel strange at all. In the morning, I shower first, and Luke makes coffee, and I put on the yellow sundress that has been sitting in my suitcase since day one, too hopeful to wear when I thought this trip was going to be an exercise in dignified suffering. It's not suffering anymore. I put on the dress. "Ready?" he says when I come out. "For what specifically?" "Breakfast," he says, "and whatever comes after." We take the long way through the resort, past the pool and the garden path, and the fountain near the lobby entrance that I've walked past 6 times without stopping. Luke's hand finds mine somewhere between the garden and the lobby door, and I don't think about it. Just let it happen. Let it be normal. Because it should be normal. Because this is what I chose. The lobby is cool, high-ceilinged, the morning light coming through the glass in clean, pale sheets. The fountain is running. The front desk staff is rotating shifts. There's a family near the elevator with too much luggage and a small child who has decided the marble floor is a skating rink. And standing near the concierge desk, rolling carry-on at his feet, sunglasses pushed up into his hair, wearing the expression of someone who has already decided how this conversation is going to go, is Dylan. He sees us at the same moment we see him. His gaze drops to our hands. His jaw doesn't drop, but something in his posture does, just slightly, the easy confidence shifting into something harder and less practiced. "Hey," he says, and his voice comes out almost casual, almost like it's nothing, almost like he didn't fly here specifically to make it something. "Wasn't expecting you both quite so," he pauses, "together." Luke's hand tightens around mine, not pulling me behind him, not stepping forward, just holding on, steady, right where he is. I don't let go. Chapter 12. "Wasn't expecting you both quite so together," Dylan says again, like saying it twice will change what his eyes already confirmed. "And yet here we are," I say. His gaze moves from our hands to my face. He does the thing he always does when he's recalibrating, where he smiles first and lets the smile do the heavy lifting. "Harper, come on, talk to me." Like Luke isn't standing right there. Like Luke is furniture. "I'm talking to you," I say. "This is me talking." "Without him," Dylan says, tilting his head toward his brother. Luke doesn't move. He doesn't step forward or pull back. His hand stays around mine, and he lets me answer, which is the right call, which is the thing Dylan would never have thought to do. "No," I say. Dylan's smile goes thin at the corners. "So this is what's happening. You and my brother, and nobody thinks to tell me." He spreads his hands wide, the gesture of a reasonable man being wildly unreasonable. 7 days, Harper. I've been gone 7 days. "You transferred your booking to him," I say. "You dumped me 2 weeks before a nonrefundable trip and handed the reservation to your brother. What did you think was going to happen?" "I didn't think you were going to sleep with him." The lobby goes very quiet around us. Not silent. The fountain keeps running. The family near the elevator keeps arguing about the luggage cart. But the 3 of us are in our own pressurized pocket of it, and the word sleep lands the way Dylan intended it to, crude and designed to make me flinch. I don't flinch. "That's a funny thing for you to say," I tell him, "given that you were talking to Brielle for 2 months before you told me we were over." His jaw shifts. "That's not the same thing." "You're right, it's not. Because I wasn't with anyone else when I was with you. I was actually there. I keep my voice level, which costs me something, but I pay it. You don't get to dump me and then show up here acting like I owe you an explanation for what I do next. You don't get both. You gave up the right to an opinion about my life the second you decided you were done with it. This isn't about you, Dylan says, and now he's looking at Luke. This is about him, because you couldn't just stay in your lane for once. Luke speaks for the first time since Dylan walked in. His voice is even. I didn't plan this. You never plan anything. You just show up and fix everything, and act like that makes you the hero. Dylan. No. Dylan points, the gesture sharp and childhood old. You've been waiting. Don't tell me you haven't. You've had that look since the first time I brought her around, and I let it go because you're my brother and I trusted you. And this is what you do with that, a beat. Luke doesn't deny it. He absorbs it the way he absorbs most things, without deflecting. I should have told you I had feelings for her, Luke says. Years ago. That's on me. I'm sorry I didn't. He pauses. I'm not sorry for anything else. That's great, Dylan says. That's really something. You ended it with her, Luke says. You transferred the booking. You moved on. You don't get to be angry that the rest of us did too. She's not the rest of us. She's... Dylan stops, runs a hand through his hair, recalibrates again, looking for the version of this conversation where he's still the injured party. You know what? Fine. Fine. You want to deal with all of her? Go ahead. She's a lot, Luke. She's a lot all the time, and I hope you're ready for that. The words land exactly the way he wants them to. Small and mean, and aimed at the place he knew to aim. I take one breath. Yeah, I say. I am a lot. I know that. I've spent 2 years trying to be less because you made me feel like it was a problem, and I'm done doing that. I step forward, and my voice doesn't shake, which surprises me. You loved being adored, Dylan. You loved having someone in your corner who showed up every single time, but you didn't want to do that back, and when I finally noticed, you left and called it needing space so you didn't have to feel like the bad guy. I stop just short of him. You don't get to control how I feel about that, and you absolutely do not get to stand here and use the fact that I'm a lot as a weapon, because the right person isn't going to see it as a problem. Dylan stares at me. For once, he doesn't reach for the smile. Are you done? He says finally. Yes, I say. Actually, I really am. He picks up his carry-on. He doesn't say anything else to me. He looks at Luke for one long moment, the look of 2 brothers with a lot of years and a lot of unfinished math between them. And then he walks toward the elevator. The family with the luggage cart moves out of his way. The doors open. He steps in, and the doors close behind him. And that's it. That's the whole thing. Luke exhales beside me, slow and controlled. Are you okay? Yes, I say. And I mean it, which is the part that surprises me. My hands are steady. My chest feels cleaner than it has in 2 years, like something that had been sitting on it finally got up and left. I'm fine. I'm actually fine. Harper. Don't qualify it, I say. Let me have it. He almost smiles. Okay. We stand there in the lobby for another moment, the fountain running and the morning light still coming through the glass in those clean, pale sheets. And then Luke says, quietly, I think I should give you some space. Back home. Let things settle before we... No, Harper. I heard you, I say, and I understand why you think that's the right call. It's very you, actually, the responsible version, the one that accounts for everyone else's comfort before his own. I turn to face him. But I've had a week of men making decisions around me without asking what I want, and I'm not doing another round of that.
Not even from you. He's quiet. He's watching me with that steady attention he has, the kind that doesn't look away when things get direct. So ask me, I say. Ask me what I want. What do you want, Harper? Not space, I say. I've had plenty of space. I want what you said on the boat, the Wednesday version, the boring one. I want the difficult phone calls and the stupid disagreements about dinner and whatever it looks like when nobody needs anything from you and you finally figure out who you are without fixing everything. I cross my arms. I want that, and I'm not going to stand here and let you talk yourself out of it because you've decided I need protecting from the situation you're already in. His expression does something I don't have a clean word for. I have a flight in 2 hours. So do I. My brother is presumably also at this resort right now. He'll survive, I say. He's very good at surviving things that are his own fault. A pause, then, the transfer desk is at the departure dock. I know where the departure dock is. I was going to go sort the luggage tags. I'll walk with you, I say. He doesn't argue. That's new. That's him learning something, or maybe it's him letting himself have something, which amounts to the same thing. The path to the departure dock runs along the south side of the resort, past the garden and the row of painted wooden signs pointing guests toward the pool, the spa, the restaurant, the beach. The air out here smells like salt and cut grass and the faint chemical sweetness of sunscreen baking on someone's shoulders nearby. The ocean is very blue today, post-storm blue, the particular shade that makes you feel like the world just got rinsed. Luke carries his bag on one shoulder. I carry mine. We walk without performing anything for anyone, and it's easy. The same ease we found on the boat yesterday, the kind that doesn't need commentary. I meant what I said in there, he says, halfway down the path, about space. I wasn't trying to make a decision for you. I know, I say. You were trying to protect me. From the mess, from Dylan, from the optics of the whole thing. But I've spent a long time letting other people decide what I can handle, and I'm over it. I shift my bag strap. I can handle the mess, Luke. I've been handling messes all week. I'm good at it. You are, he says, and there's no qualification in it. The thing is, I say, I've been doing this thing my whole life where I wait for the situation to be clean before I say what I want. Wait until it's the right time. Wait until nobody's feelings are at risk. Wait until there's no possible interpretation of my wanting something that makes me look selfish or dramatic. I look sideways at him. And I'm done waiting for clean. The departure dock comes into view at the end of the path. It's a wide wooden platform with a small covered transfer desk at one end and a row of benches along the railing. A few other guests are already there with luggage, waiting for the shuttle boat. The water laps at the pilings below. A sign above the desk reads "Departures" in white letters on a navy background. Luke sets his bag down at the desk and gives his name to the attendant. I set mine down beside it. The attendant starts pulling up information on the screen. Out past the dock, the ocean is flat and bright, and somewhere on the other side of it is the rest of our lives. All the ordinary Wednesdays and the difficult phone calls and the houseplants that are mostly failing. Luke, I say. He turns. I'm choosing you, I say. In the real world, not just here. Not because of Dylan, not because this week happened to us, not because it's convenient or dramatic or a good story. Because you saw me coming across a lobby with my whole situation falling apart, and you held on and didn't make it smaller. I keep my eyes on his face. That's what I want. That's the person I want. And I'm not going to stand here pretending I might not want that just because it's complicated. He's quiet for a beat that feels longer than it is. I have wanted you for 3 years, he says. I'm not walking away from that. Good. but I need you to know it's going to be complicated, I say. I know. I said complicated first. Keep up. He laughs, short and real, and then he closes the distance between us, and his hand comes up to my jaw, and he kisses me right there under the departure sign, in front of the transfer desk attendant and the other guests on the bench, and the very blue ocean, and whatever version of Dylan is still somewhere in that resort, rearranging his version of events. I kiss him back. The wrong brother kissed me under the departure sign, and for the first time all week, leaving felt less like an ending than a dare. The end. Thank you for listening.